38 pounds in the black corner. From St. Louis,
Here comes Mr. Pro.
Andre the Giant.
Gonna get his licks in on the bruiser.
Number one, the greatest WWE champion of all time, and in many ways, the man who made the title what it is today, Bruno Sammartino.
his opponent weighing 236 pounds in the white corner.
Welcome in to the Retro Wrestling Rewind. As always, I'm David Fine, alongside my tag team partner in this talk show, in this venture in life, the great Alex G, the true Long Island IC. How in the heck have you been doing? We are talking Night 4 of the Great American Bash Tour 1986. It was outside, and Ric Flair had a, we won't spoil it, had a spectacular entrance. I mean, what were your thoughts going in, this show? I mean, it was no big event like we watched last week, but it was a pretty good show.
This is the second Great American Bash Tour. Now, people may not realize that back in the day, the Great American Bash wasn't just one show, it wasn't one pay-per-view. It was a summer event that went through the entire summer with these big supercards across the country. And, the Bash itself historically has been a really, really solid show, minus like 1991. But in general, I do enjoy the Bashes. And, we had the first one on tape. I believe it's the PWA Ringmasters that we got some footage from Bash 85. Bash 86, we ended up getting a compilation VHS tape released by Crockett. I believe that may have been done by Turner as well. So that was really cool to see. And now, these events are on the WWE Network and the Hidden Gems section. So you should definitely go check those out.
Yeah, I mean, I think my favorite Great American Bash was, I think it was 87, where they had was it the War Games? That was 1987, correct?
I believe so. Yes,
Yeah.
That was that was also the tour, and the ones that we saw were like from the Orange Bowl.
Yeah,
that was really
I mean, I thought it was. I thought this was a great show. I mean, it was. I mean, it had 20,000 in attendance. I mean, it was like we were talking about last week. I mean, it was the highest attendance of the Bash tours because it was in Jim Crockett's backyard. I mean, it was Ric Flair's backyard. It was in the NWA's backyard. At the time. I mean, are you surprised that it was the biggest crowd on the tour so far?
1986 is a very hot year for professional wrestling. It's a very underrated year in general. A lot of the promotions are doing really cool stuff. I mean, you obviously have your WWF and your Jim Crockett promotions. Mid-South is still extremely relevant and doing cool stuff. Memphis is doing Memphis-type stuff, but 86 was actually, I thought, a really good year for them creatively. AWA still hanging on by a fucking thread, but, they would get the Midnight Rockers real pretty shortly after this, I believe. So, they're doing some cool stuff, and we do see a resurgence in World Class during this time. I believe Michael P.S. Hayes might have been booking around this time, and they had a resurgence for a little bit before they crashed and burned.
Yeah, I mean, the first match we had that we saw on the card was, of course, your favorite wrestler, Denny Brown. He was the junior heavyweight champion, taking on my buddy, Steve Regal. It ended in a time limit draw, 15 minutes. I mean, what were your thoughts on this as an opening match? I mean, were you a fan of Denny Brown's? I mean, in the junior title?
It was weird how they booked the junior heavyweight championship. It always kind of felt very much akin to the World Heavyweight Championship, where the wrestler would go around and tour. It wouldn't be necessarily a Jim Crockett belt, but I believe Jim Crockett at this stage is dominating and has a stranglehold on all the NWA titles. The Junior Heavyweight Championship never got necessarily big recognition, or wasn't something that they necessarily focused on television all that much. It was the opening or second match, kind of championship belt that they wouldn't really talk that much on television, and they should have, especially with some of the guys they could have imported from Japan during this time frame as well, to really kind of give this championship a little bit more love. But you get your Denny Browns and your Les Thorntons would be your champion, and then you wouldn't hear about the belt for 6 to 8 months, and then they would bring it back, and eventually it did become the WCW Light Heavyweight Championship, when had those great series of matches between Pillman and Liger, and Pillman and Scotty Flamingo, also known as Raven. But unfortunately for the Junior Heavyweight Championship, this is not Danny Hodge with the belt, dominating the scene here. This is kind of like, hey, we're gonna put these on, kind of the opening card here, the opening matches, and which is kind of unfortunate. The WWF kind of light heavyweight versions are historically been Japanese championships that they're basically New Japan. It's a New Japan belt, but it has a WWF kind of connotation with it because it is a WWF light heavyweight championship, but it's defended only and strictly in Japan, which was weird. And it goes back to the old, Ultimo Dragon, who held the WWF, light heavyweight championship, NWA junior heavyweight championship, because all those belts kind of not necessarily merged, but they were all defended and for the J Crown. So it was kind of weird seeing Ultimo Dragon have all these belts from not only the NWA but the WWF. He had some Japanese titles, he had some Mexican championships, and he actually had the WCW Cruiserweight Championship too. So, a lot of history in terms of Ultimo, making history, taking the J Crown. He didn't win the first tournament. He actually won the belt later on. But, Junior Heavyweight Championship, you look at today's, Cruiserweight Championship, it's always been something that, professional wrestling in general, other than, its heyday, the light heavyweight championship or the cruiserweight or any kind of, weight limit championship probably had its heyday. And McGurk's, the Mid-South territory before Watts had purchased the territory. But at this point, it's not what it once was.
No, it was not. I mean, and speaking of that, I mean, what were your thoughts? I mean, watching the show, I mean, it was outside. I mean, do you think what were your thoughts on outside shows? I mean, they're great. I mean, just kind of you don't see that, I mean, you see that on the big pay-per-views, but you don't see that on like house shows anymore in the WWE. I mean, do you think having it outside is...
It always looks funny, especially when they do like baseball stadiums or even football stadiums, because they necessarily wouldn't sell out the entire building. They would be, sections. So when you have 20,000 people in a 70,000 seat building, it always looks funny. But what do you do at that point? You still drew a hell of a house. But again, when you do 20,000, and what is the Greensboro Coliseum? I mean, there's a Charlotte an actual arena, right? So there's actually a arena. I wonder what that held. But it is the summertime, hence the Great American Bash, barbecues, 4th of July. You kind of want to do outside. That was kind of Dusty's vision, so I kind of understand that. But when we look at like your Shea Stadium shows for the WWF, they always kind of look weird. The crowd is very far away from the ring. You look at the Texas Stadium shows, the World Class, again, it looks cool from when we look at it from one angle, but when you look at the other angles, you see like all the entire upper deck kind of empty or curtained off. It kind of does look weird. Aesthetically, it doesn't look pleasing on television.
No, yeah. I mean, I do like an outside show every once in a while, but yeah, I mean, it's aesthetically, it's just.
I mean, if you can sell it out, if you can do a MetLife Stadium where they sell out, 80,000, and it looks fucking massive. We look at the big event that was outside, and it was basically sold out. I know that was a sold show, but we see the Silverdome, they sold that out. You know what I mean? And that looks fucking impressive, but putting 20, 30, even 40. 1,000 people in a 60, 70, 80,000 seat arena or stadium doesn't necessarily give the best look. It doesn't.
The next match we had on the card, it was weird. I mean, seeing a singles Robert Gibson taking on your favorite wrestler, Black Bart. I mean, Robert Gibson as a singles wrestler, I mean, he's known for his tag team matches. I mean, what are your thoughts on him being a singles competitor? I mean,
they had to split him up because Ricky Morton's in the main event. Black Bart, he has a championship at this point, I believe.
Yeah, I think he had a
Mid-Atlantic champion.
Yeah, he was a Mid-Atlantic champion.
So that was the top belt in Crockett Promotions for a long time, and it's weird to see a promotions type top title get pushed down the card a little bit. So it's clearly a mid card belt. It's probably less important than the television championship for sure at this point. So it's when Crockett started absorbing all these territories, he just picked up all these belts and didn't necessarily unify them. They just had them running around. National championship, national tag team championship. I'm sure they had the Alabama junior heavyweight champion running around there too, which is weird. You had all these things, and you never kind of unified it to create a national. Hence, not to be facetious, but like something that's more, you're expanding nationally at this point. Should you really have a Mid-Atlantic championship? You're like, hey, you want to defend that, in Texas? Like, what are you going to do with this? Eventually they abandoned it. They retired it because they had to.
Yeah, I don't understand those belts. I mean, they had so many belts back then. I mean, they had the Mid-Atlantic, but like you said, the Alabama junior heavyweight champion, that was a great title that you never saw defended on TV, but it was always, no, I mean, it was, what can I say? I mean,
when you deal with those with the belts themselves, it's kind of bizarre that Crockett felt the need to keep these territories belts, around for so long, and it's not like, hey, listen, we bought Georgia, so we're gonna take all their belts and unify them with our belts, and then maybe come up with a different name for these things. No, we're just gonna keep them separate because of reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I never understood that. I mean, yeah, they just
when the WWF purchased promotions, and they did purchase a few throughout time. Stampede being a prime example. They didn't bring the Stampede belts with them. They just kind of just abandoned those anyway. So it was very bizarre that Crockett chose to go down that route.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad they got rid of all the titles. I mean, there were so many. I mean,
they kept a lot of belts up until like '92. Like you had randomly like the 6-man championship that was like only around less than a year. You had your U.S. Tag Team Championship, which is like another bizarre championship that they would, when they had enough teams to fill the competitive field for that belt, they would have it, but otherwise they would keep it vacant. They would deactivate it for a while and they would bring it back. So, again, very bizarre how they work these things.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give it to the WWE now. I mean, they do have a lot of belts, but they don't have amount of belts. I mean,
I don't think they have too many right now. I mean, I don't know. You kind of want to have that one world champion, your top guy, but to that extent, the belts don't necessarily mean anything anymore. And we'll go into that when I talk about the Morton and Flair match and why the belt was so important versus when you look at belts today. There's no reason that someone would want to become a champion.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said back in the 80s and earlier. I mean, if you were the champion, I mean, you got paid more. You got to go different places. I mean, now it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's like, I mean, they're putting Finn Balor on NXT. Doesn't really matter. He's going to get paid the same. He's just not as long of work, treacherous work schedule. So I mean, it doesn't really matter now. I mean, sorry, doesn't matter where you wrestle now. It doesn't. I mean, and the next match we had my favorite tag team, in the day, the Andersons, Ole and Arn Anderson, taking on Nelson Royal and
Minnesota Wrecking Crew. For fuck's sake.
Sorry, the Minnesota Wrecking Crew, Ole and Arn Anderson. And speaking of Ole Anderson, he just celebrated a birthday recently, and I just want to wish him a happy birthday. He
bless his heart.
He lives in Georgia, and kind of found out from a friend who I work with. His Ole Anderson was actually his wrestling coach in high school. So here in Georgia, and he's gotten up in age, and he probably can still kick anybody's ass. But I wouldn't tell him, hey, you're an old man. He'd probably beat you up. But well, yeah, man. I mean, who could not hate Harley Race? I mean, and take on Nelson Royal and your favorite wrestler, Sam Houston.
Why the fuck is this match happening?
I mean, they had no place for
you couldn't come up with a better match for this. Like you have the Andersons here. Like this is the best you can do. You give them Nelson Royal, which I don't necessarily mind. Sam Houston, yeah, shit. Like, are they spread thin? Like, is there another show going on tonight? Like, what's happening here?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, they could have put him against anybody, but they put him against Nelson Royal and Sam. I mean, I don't really understand that.
Where the fuck are the Midnights?
The Midnights are in the 6-man tag team in the cage at the bottom of the show. So remember that lovely. Oh man, but yeah, I mean this match. I mean, of course, I mean it's going to be an Anderson match. I mean, not a big fan of Nelson Roy. I'm sure as hell not a fan of Sam Houston. He doesn't. He's not my favorite wrestler. I mean, I just don't understand.
Do you prefer Sam Houston or Kendall Windham as the skinniest wrestler ever?
Kendall Windham.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, I mean, but I prefer any of those guys above Virgil. So I'm just saying. But, yeah, I'll never.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Soul Train Jones.
Yeah, I know. But moving on from that match, since it was, kind of the drizzling shits, as I would say.
Who cares?
I mean, who cares about this match? Another match they had, it was a bunkhouse match. Manny Fernandez taking on Baron Von Raschke in a bunkhouse match. I mean, yeah, have you noticed that back in the 80s, they have a lot of gimmick matches like bunkhouse match, tape fist match, an Indian strap match, which seems rather racist, but that's, I guess Wahoo, since he is an Indian, it's not really racist.
His match.
Yeah, and then they have, of course,
I don't necessarily know what the difference between a Indian strap and another different. Like, is the leather different on the strap? I'm not necessarily sure.
Maybe it's made by an Indian. I don't know, but no. So, what were your thoughts on this bunkhouse match? I mean, it went 10 minutes. I mean, Manny beat.
Here's the thing. This is again a continuation of Paul Jones and Jimmy Valiant. Then their feud. We'll go into more of that later on. But Manny is Handsome's friend, and Ron Raschke is part of Paul Jones's army, so it makes 100% sense that they would have this match here. Bunkhouse match, okay. Like, this is Come As You Are. It's a street fight, essentially, a hardcore match, whatever you want to call it. It's cool. I don't know if Ron Raschke should be on a cards anywhere in a national promotion in 1986, unfortunately, for the Baron, but he's here. I don't know why. He would go on to demand the powers of pain in WWF later on in 88, 89, or whatever. But yeah, what the fuck is Baron Raschke here? It's like, how come he's not in the AWA right now? Like, what's happening?
Yeah, I just see Baron, and I mean, not a big fan of his. I mean,
like, he's a Nazi, right? He's a Nazi heel, right?
Yeah.
That's what it was. Let's call a spade here. And you have Manny Fernandez, quote unquote Vietnam vet, but that story doesn't necessarily match up. But whatever. And he we like Manny, and this is before he does the big turn on Handsome. So we're still down with Manny Fernandez. Again, a good friend with Dusty Rhodes, so he's in the promotion at this point.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it was we were talking about this terrible booking with a Sam Houston, Nelson Roy, and the Andersons in a match, and Manny and Baron.
I don't think they had guys. I think they had guys. I think the roster's thin.
I mean, it kind of brings me to kind of current wrestling and booking. I mean, as you know, we were talking in the pre-show that the end of the last pay-per-view for the WWE was the drizzling shits. No one really, people seemed to not really like it. I mean, they were booing, but did that ever happen?
They were getting Great American Bash '88 heat. Jesus Christ!
I mean, but did that happen a lot back in the 70s and 80s where the fans just turned on the promotion? I mean, where they just said, we want a refund. This is crap, whatever. I mean,
yeah. I mean, obviously, I just referenced that Bash '88 for sure. Yeah, it happened all the time. Historically, those promotions go out of business when they don't listen to the fans. But you would see that throughout history. You would see like George Goulas is like, oh, you're gonna get Antonio Rocca. And it's like, well, do you guys want to watch Antonio Rocca next week? He's coming in. And they're like, no, well, you're gonna get him anyway.
Yeah, man.
So, I'll tell you guys, but it's wrestling was very different back then.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, I've seen on Twitter that people have just, kind of, bitching them, but they still watch it each and every Monday night and Friday night.
Yeah.
So,
well, of course they're going to watch it every week. I mean, I can see the forest through the trees. I historically don't watch shows if they're going to make me angry. And looking at the lineup, which I believe was only 4 matches, like, this show's probably going to piss me off. So I'm not going to watch this one. I'm going to watch something else.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch
it. I did.
So.
Okay, I'm smart enough not to do that. It's ridiculous.
You're smart enough. And, we're smart enough to move on. And the next match we had, it was another gimmick match. It was an Indian strap match. Chief Wahoo McDaniel, taking on Jimmy Garvin. an Indian strap match. I mean, what's the difference between that and another kind of strap match? I mean,
Well, I don't think there's any necessarily difference. I mean, we have a Russian chain match, which is actually very similar to the Indian strap match anyway. But you get you get to see Wahoo fucking, kind of wear out fucking Jimmy Garvin here. He's not singing, he's not part of the Freebirds, but that's pretty good. But I think this is prime time Jimmy Garvin throughout this era here. This is when he's really coming to his own. Fantastic on the mic, works pretty good. Would eventually go on to have a little feud with Flair until they did the whole turn with the Midnights, and he saves his brother Ronnie, and then he goes off the feud with Flair, which leads to the Flair Garvin matches and the title switch. So you have Wahoo, who is notorious for being stiff as fuck, and watching Jimmy Garvin get this ever living shit beat out of him is fun. So that's good.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely. I think there was a story that I heard somewhere that he walked 26 miles one way to get beer. I'm not sure if that was true. I mean, Wahoo McDaniel seems like a tough son of a bitch. So.
Oh, he would. I wouldn't doubt that at all.
Oh man, but yeah, I mean, it was a good match. I mean, it was a good mid card match. Speaking of something that is definitely 100% guaranteed to be awesome, is your YouTube page. I mean, like I said last week, I got it on the 100-inch down in the living room, the area, and I've been watching it, and the wife got addicted to it. I mean, why is it so good, and how can people watch what Mrs. Fine is watching each and every night on the big TV?
Well, you start off by going to Retro Wrestling Game Presents, and you type that into the search bar here. And now bring up all 344 videos that we have. But, they're all, produced. Most of them, I would say about 70% are wrestling related. We do delve into other pop culture stuff, whether it be, Marvel Cinematic Universe, Star Wars, kind of the old school arcade video games. We talk about that stuff. We do talk a little modern wrestling every once in a while. I try not to bring those up, but when you comparing and contrast, the past, the present always seems to come up, no matter how hard I try to ignore it. But yes, it's a fun deal. The videos are, they're in depth. So we're going an hour. We go 30 minutes. We go an hour. This is not, hey, I'm gonna watch this for 10 minutes. No, you have to be invested. And the bottom line is that comment, join the party. If you like the video, say, oh, that video was great. If you don't like it, tell me I suck. I don't care. I'll probably tell you to suck back.
And you do suck, but that's beside the point. But I mean,
Toes, me and Tony Atlas.
We should have talked to him about that at WrestleCon, but he'd probably punch us.
Well, sucking toes?
Yeah,
he's pretty open about that shit.
I'm sure he is.
He'll probably give you some tips.
I bet you will. I mean, speaking of that, is there anything coming up on the horizon that you're going to be covering? I mean, any more NWA stuff? Since, of course, last night on, because this is your hump day, kind of I call it your push over that hill. It is a Wednesday. Last night we had the YouTube debut of the National Wrestling Alliance, their new TV tapings. I mean, do you have any new NWA stuff coming up down the road?
Yeah, we're definitely going to take a look at that show. We're definitely going to review. We're going to take a look at the AEW Dynamite as well. That's coming over the horizon. They're on their second episode, so definitely going to talk about that. We're going to talk about MLW. I'm a big fan of MLW. They're the San Antonio Spurs of the wrestling profession right now. They may not have the big scars, but they are fundamentally sound. So.
Yeah, I mean, they're. I mean, every time I've seen them, it's they've been pretty good. I mean, it's a solid show. I mean, sucks that Shivani. I don't think he's doing anymore since he signed with AEW. So I mean,
yeah.
but no, I mean, but it'll be interesting to to see how Tony works with Jim Ross and your favorite mask commentator. So I mean.
Excalibur.
I love Excalibur, and and also it's kind of funny on the National Wrestling Alliance show. They have Jim Cornette on commentary. It's just kind of weird hearing him do commentary. I mean, he's a great mouthpiece, and I think he's going to be great for that promotion. I mean, it's the NWA. I mean, it's Billy Corgan. It's
I mean, he's done commentary before. I mean, he was on the fucking like first episode of fucking SmackDown. He was a commentator for WCW. I mean, so his commentary credentials are as good as anybody else's.
Yeah, I mean, I've been, kind of hearing and listening a couple of episodes to Raw and to the commentating team with Jerry Lawler, these two other guys that I've never heard of. So it should be interesting. I mean, I think I'm gonna ask your opinion. Does a commentary team make a show?
Oh, for sure. Like, you think those Memphis shows would be good without Lance Russell and Dave Brown? No. You think Florida would have been as good or Georgia would have been as good without Gordon Soley? No. And that's the reality of the situation.
Yeah, I mean,
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and it's one of those things. I mean, if you want to, see all the destinations that the Retro Wrestling Rewind is on now, just go to the rwrewind.com. That's the rwrewind.com. I mean,
are we on Pornhub yet?
No, that's actually in 2 weeks. We're going to be on the video version of Pornhub. It's this new concept I've been approached. It's kind of weird, but we're going to actually seriously, in about 4 weeks' time, so in about a month from now, we're going to be on Pandora. We're on Spotify. We are in about a month's time from about the same time as we're going to be dropping on Pandora. We're going to be on iHeartMedia, the Clear Channel, former Clear Channel. So we are taking over the audio world, one episode at a time. And speaking of the thing that's taking over is another fucking gimmick match, tape fist match, Ron Garvin, Tully Blanchard.
This match is awesome, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't say it wasn't a bad match, but it's like another gimmick match. It's
fucking awesome. Like it's Ronnie Garvin beating the shit out of Tully Blanchard. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, just tell me why this match was so good. I mean, do you think this was one of the best matches on the card?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it had like the weird rounds thing, which is cool, I guess, but it's essentially like, hey, we're going to do like this kind of boxing wrestling match, and we're going to have Ron Garvin and Tully Blanchard, and Tully's selling his fucking ass. I can watch Tully Blanchard get beat up all day.
Yeah,
first and foremost.
I'm a big
this match is really good. I enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Tully. I mean, it's just, even now with him in the AEW, I mean, I can't get enough Tully. I mean, I also cannot get enough of Tessa, but that's neither here nor there. I mean, I know. Well, she is all. I mean, she is. Those people that you see on TV or you meet in person that are really good looking and also nice. She is both of them. She is the full total package.
Yeah.
Just don't be with the total package because you'll probably die. But that's beside the point.
Good
so
point. You're not wrong.
Yeah,
You're not wrong.
I'm not wrong. I mean, it was a good match. I mean, it was like you said, it was a kind of a semi-boxing kind of round 5 KO. I mean, it was weird, and you kept on hearing the referee yelling, "This is not a wrestling match. This is not. You can't." It's like. Right. It was just weird, but
this is fun. Like this is a good. Like this is fucking hands of stone, fucking one man gang, Ronnie Garvin. You know what I mean? Like this is like white in his wheelhouse. I love this. This is good stuff.
I mean, and it was a good match. But I mean, the next match we had on the card, we had the Road Warriors, Hawk and Animal, with Paul Ellering taking on the Russians, Ivan Koloff, and Nikita Koloff. Not just in a Russian chain match, a double Russian chain match. Your thoughts?
Yeah. How much steroids is in the ring at this point? Like, fucking Nikita's fucking gas out of his fucking mind. The Warriors are clearly, Hulk is probably taking monkey hormones at this point. They look fucking massive. It's like you, when you look at them, you can throw Uncle Ivan in there too, but he's not as impressive. Like, you look at them, it's like, oh man, these guys look fucking phenomenal. These guys are the baddest motherfuckers on the planet. And then you watch them work, and you're like, oh wait. No. Because the Warriors work best when they're just destroying dudes. I wouldn't even say Nikita's a little bit better, but Nikita had a lot more high-profile one-on-one matches that wasn't like your prototypical like Goldberg-style matches for those that are young enough to not remember the Road Warriors all that much. They're basically like a tag team of Goldbergs that would come in and just destroy people. Not Steve Regal, because him and Garvin beat the Road Warriors for the belts. But anyway... they're impressive. They got their huge reactions. They sold out everywhere. They made a ton of money. They drew, but their work wasn't necessarily the best. Demolition's a better working tag team than the Warriors.
Yeah, I mean,
Sure.
I definitely think that. I mean, I was a big Axe and Smash Demolition fan back in the the mid '80s. I
The
mean,
goddamn Koloffs are not even fucking Russian. Fucking Uncle Ivan's from Canada and Nikita's from Minnesota.
yeah, I mean, it's just you know a guy fucking works his gimmick when he fucking changes his name to Nikita Koloff. I mean,
Like he took it serious. Like I give him a lot of credit. He
I
took
mean,
it fucking serious.
I mean,
He learned
kayfabed it.
Russian for real, and he would kayfabe people, and his neighbors and shit. Like he fucking took it. Like you talk about performance art, right? And people like wrestlers, performance art. Get the fuck out of here with that. Using that term to shield yourself from criticism. Performance art is being fucking Nikita Koloff. That's being performance art. Like that's taking it. That's method like a motherfucker.
Yeah, I
For
mean,
sure.
he lived that motherfucking gimmick, and he still does. I mean, he's I think he's in some kind of ministry, and he still uses that
He's a
name.
reality show.
Oh well, I'm sure
He's
it's
a
gonna be
reality
canceled.
show.
So I'm sure it'll be on the network. No, I don't know. So, but yeah, I mean, it
Nikita
was.
should fucking Russian sickle fucking Tessa Blanchard because it'd be hilarious. Like he goes after Magnum one last fucking time.
He'll
and
fucking
nails
kill
Tessa.
Magnum. I mean that man.
Well, yeah, but that's something interesting you can do at the very least. Like Tully's there, right? I'm sure Magnum's going to make an appearance at some point because Cody Rhodes, Magnum TA, blah blah blah, right? All this other shit, right? So you might as well have Nikita, and Nikita will throw a Russian sickle and maybe hit Tessa by accident, and you can start an angle from there. Fuck it. Let's book that shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, hey, I think the people that are booking AEW are doing a lot better than some other promotions, but we won't go into that. But next match, which they should not have had, Jimmy Valiant taking on a handsome Jimmy Valiant taking on Shaska Watley with Paul Jones and a hair versus hair match.
Yeah, they get to shave, Pez Watley here, which is nice. It's funny because they start out with this. This is Jimmy Valiant again, Paul Jones and Jimmy Valiant going on forever, like 4 fucking years in Crockett, right? And Pez turns on Jimmy because Jimmy called him the best black wrestler on the planet or the best black athlete, some shit like that. And Pez got fucking pissed and beat the shit out of him. But is that necessarily an insult? But you kind of understand what Pez is going for here. So that was kind of a weird thing that they did there. But Pez got his head shaved bald, and then Jimmy Valiant will go on to tell Paul Jones that he's next, and that would actually happen at the Greensboro show, where actually Paul Jones defeats Jimmy Valiant in a hair versus hair match, and they actually shaved Jimmy Valiant's hair. So, this is kind of leading up to the Starrcade. So,
yeah, man,
good stuff.
I cannot believe how long this freaking feud between Paul Jones and Jimmy Valiant. I mean,
it's fucking forever. It drew money in high school gyms.
yeah, I mean, if you like wrestling in high school gyms, but that's
Well, WWF had matches in high school gyms in the fucking 90s.
I mean, I don't. I don't scoff. I mean, I've been to a number of big shows that are in high school gymnasiums, but I mean, hey, if they sell out, man, that's all that.
Yeah, they made money. That's all. You can put Jimmy Valiant and fucking Paul Jones and throw them on a seat towel, and they'll sell the fucking thing out, and they fucking make money. But nothing else on the card. This is a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the next match on the card, it was a pretty good match. It was Steel Cage, Baby Doll, Dusty Rhodes, Magnum TA, taking on Jim Cornette and the Midnight Express of Bobby Eaton and Dennis Condrey.
Yeah, a couple things here. I mean, you have that Jim Cornette, Baby Doll feud going on here, which is cool. Actually, I believe Dale does get the win over Cornette here, which is a lot of fun. You got Dusty and Magnum and the Midnights are flying all over the place, but this kind of accumulates with the competition between Dusty Rhodes and Big Bubba Rogers, which is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's I mean, what are your thoughts on? I mean, back then having a woman wrestle, with men. I mean, it was. I mean, it wasn't done.
Baby Doll's not necessarily. She's not fucking 90 pounds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you have Cornette in there anyway. So Cornette, at this point, he's playing a sissy essentially. They don't know. In reality, they don't know if Jim is gay or what. And he played up. He didn't play it up like a Adrian Street perhaps, but you didn't know. He was a sissy. That was his whole gimmick was biggest. And you have Baby Doll, who like was a shot put champion in fucking Texas, and could really kick ass. It's like, yeah, this is fine.
Yeah, it was an okay match. Then we had the main event, which I know you want to talk in depth about. Ric Flair taking on Ricky Morton for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. And the thing that kind of stood out to me is the way Ric Flair got here. Got here in a helicopter, a news helicopter. He landed in the middle of the outdoor stadium, which was kind of cool. And it was in the cage. Ricky Morton, he had the face guard on because he had got the ever-loving crap kicked out of him earlier. What were your thoughts on this match?
It's not necessarily the match because, yeah, it's Ric Flair, Ricky Morton. Yeah, they did the angle where the Horseman took his fucking head and fucking just scraped it on the concrete floor and broke his face, right? That's the match, right? Ricky's getting over the Rock and Roll, surprisingly old, by the way. Maybe not surprising to the people who saw them, but when you look at them on paper in 2009, it seems like these guys were fucking stars, really. But you were talking about, you took Ricky Morton, Robert Gibson, who was like, they were in the middle of the card in Memphis. They had a couple main event shots with like Savage and Poffo, and you go over the Mid-South and they fucking pop the fucking territory. Like, holy shit, they're fucking doing tremendous business in the fucking Superdome. Like really, okay. And they go over to Crockett and they're fucking white, fucking hot in Crockett. They're drawing money. The fans love them, and you kind of like surprised a little bit. And then you see them work, and you're like, oh, now I get it. These guys are fucking phenomenal. But I think that what's most important when we look at this match is Ric Flair's ability to have more than one feud going on at the same time. So obviously Ric Flair is feuding with Dusty Rhodes. He's also feuding with Nikita Koloff. He's also feuding with Magnum TA. Feuding with Ronnie Garvin and Jimmy Garvin, and eventually Jimmy Garvin, but not there yet. Feuding with the Road Warriors. He's feuding with Ricky Morton, and he's able to have these interviews where he talks about all of them. And that's amazing to me. That's a very different thing you see in modern wrestling. Modern wrestling, the only guy that's chasing the championship is the guy who's fighting the champion on the next pay-per-view. Like, no one talks about it. No one talks about, I want to be the champion, or I'm coming after this guy. It's just the guy that whoever the champion's feuding with is only talking about the championship, or even the champion in general. Like, no one else is like, oh, Kevin Owens doesn't care that he's not the champion because he's not in the match with the champion, and he's not going to have a match with him anytime soon. It's like they just focus on that one thing. And that's very WWF-like because they always done that. They don't have multiple challengers, or they don't have their champion as a marked man, and that doesn't make any sense why they do it that way. That's just the way it is, but it doesn't make any sense, right? And we're at the point right now where kayfabe is basically dead, right? I accept the fact that kayfabe's dead, but there's no necessarily reason for someone to want to be the champion. Like, why would you want to be a champion? You have your guaranteed contract. You're going to make $150,000 with or without the belt. You get your little merch money, and that's it. That's what it is. And there's no kayfabe explanation about why someone would want to be the champion. Back in the days, like, oh, you win the championship, you become a millionaire, basically overnight. Or, you have the prestige and you're hanging out with movie stars. Like, no one gives a shit of that. Who is the champion right now? Seth Rollins is champion? Who cares? Brock Lesnar is champion? No, who cares? That's where we're at right now. No one really cares now. No one cares. A lot of times your biggest star is not even the champion. And that's kind of like, it's kind of weird to see. And I guess, that's the way it's kind of been for the last 20 years. And I guess, a lot of modern wrestling fans are kind of conditioned to kind of see it that way, I guess. But back in the day, it's like your champions are your champions, and everyone, heel, baby face, or whatever, is gunning for the champion, regardless of their quote-unquote affiliation. And you don't see that in today's wrestling. You don't see all these guys coming after the champion, and the champion feeling stressed about it and becoming paranoid that everyone's gonna try to take this belt from him. And you lose that dramatic tension when you book like the WWF books, where the only person who challenges the champion is the person who has the next match at the pay-per-view. And the way you get title shots is by going in and sneak attacking somebody, or saying some stupid shit in a promo. Like, oh, they're gonna put you in the match. Okay, there it is. Like, how the fuck is Bray Wyatt #1 contender? The fuck did he do? Nothing. Nothing to deserve that title shot. He's a cool character. I enjoy it. But why is he getting title shots? He's been hurt for fucking 6 months off TV for like almost 10, and he's getting title shots.
Yeah,
this is what we're doing. Okay, fine.
Whatever, dude. I mean that is kind of weird. But speaking of what is not weird, next week I picked the show. We are going to cover Royal Rumble 1992. Your thoughts on that?
Well, that is the very, very famous Flair Rumble where he wins the WWF Championship. So there's a lot of cool stuff to talk about there. What happened to Flair and Hogan for WrestleMania 8? Hogan getting a super negative reaction at the end of this Rumble when he cheats and fucking eliminates Sid. You have Piper trying to win 2 belts in one night. A lot of fun stuff here. It's a good show overall, and it might be a little overrated, but it's a good show overall. This is in terms of wrestling commentary, this is Bobby Heenan's night. This is the Bobby Heenan show, 100% for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely that. But hey, folks, before you hear us next week, next Wednesday when the show drops, your hump day push over that hill and get you to the weekend. Check out Royal Rumble 1992. However you get it, if it's on illegally, like some people like to watch it, or on the network, we don't care. Just watch it and tune in back next week.
Watch the VHS copy.
I mean, or you can watch the VHS like the great Alex G does. But for the great Alex G, as always, I am David Fine. We will see you back here next week where we talk Royal Rumble 1992. And as always, we'll talk to you in the past.
£238 in the black corner. From St. Louis,
Here comes Mr. Pro. Mr.
Andre the
Pro
Giant.
Gonna get his licks in on the bruiser. Hulk Hogan.
Number 1, the greatest WWE champion of all time, and in many ways, the man who made the title what it is today, Bruno Sammartino.
His opponent weighing 236 pounds in the white corner. From Van Nuys, California.